How was having to go on air that that first week without a dress rehearsal? And Danny, I'll ask you, especially because you've done less television than Craig and Mark both have. So how was that first week just going in there without having worked with them at all?
Yeah, it was weird. It was definitely unusual. We did a couple. We all went out to dinner on a Wednesday at a steakhouse in New York. Did a few things on a Thursday and Friday, and then we're on the air on Monday. So it was obviously weird. I thought I was going to be much more nervous than I was, and I think the only thing I can attribute that to is because Craig just kind of alluded to it. Like, we all kind of took gambles and different ways on this. But I have a soon to be 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, and had recently purchased my first ever house in my dream city near my family, doing I moved for this. And so I was living away from my wife, away from my kids, trying to sell a house, flying back to Chicago every Friday. So my personal life was a lot more stressful than launching a national TV show, which should be stressful in its own right. But I was able to kind of just be like, well, the show has to work because I'm doing all of these things in my personal life to make it work. So I was just very focused on I'm here for a reason. We've got to make this good, and we've got to make this fun. And so the show was fun because it was a relief of I don't have to think about mortgage rates and contractors and, preschools and childcare and my wife's job. You know what I mean? So it was, not to get too real or personal with you, but the show, it was okay, I signed a contract. Clearly people believe that I can do this. I'm here, I'm doing it. And this is honestly, in some weird way, simpler right now than my personal life because of all of those moving pieces. So that first day, I wasn't really thinking about the fact that we hadn't done a lot of dress rehearsals. I was just thinking, when am I going to sell my house?
But Brandon, think about this. I'll speak up for Danny for a second. Before we ever started this show, Danny, as a Chicago sports talk radio guy, was given an opportunity to fill in for Colin Cowherd, right? And do a solo show in Colin's spot, a 3-hour TV show without many people knowing who he was outside of Chicago and Kansas City. Doing this show is easy compared to doing that, when that show essentially is your demo tape. That's the show where you prove to Fox executives, I can do this and I can carry a show. And I guarantee you, if Danny had failed at that, he's not doing this. So this is easy compared to that.
Well, thank you. There is definitely some truth to that. I'd done 3 or 4 weekends, or not weekends, but flown out 3 or 4 different times to do appearances on First Things First. And I was like, man, those were easy. I'm sitting next to my best friend. I'm the 4th voice on an established show. They tell you what you're going to talk about, and you do it 8 or 10 minutes at a time. And every time I would leave, they'd be like, do you want to come back in 2 weeks? Do you want to come back in 4 weeks? So I knew it was building to something. And then when they asked me to fill in for Colin, I was like, oh, holy shit, something might be happening here. And then when the Colin thing ended, there was no come back for this or go to New York for this. It was just kind of yeah, we'll be in touch. And so I had no idea what was coming. And there's definitely some truth to 3 hours solo TV when you've never done that before. And now Mark Schlereth has to read the intros. I'm like, okay, yeah. yeah. What do I got to do? I just got to give takes. So yeah, the Colin thing was huge for me to convince myself that I could do it. That is 100% true.